How's it going? It's Man Tomorrow here. I want to thank you guys for coming through. Like, ever since this announcement was made, I've been talking to people from most HCBU's in Mississippi. You know, Mississippi is the state that I'm actually from. So I know a lot about the HCBU's in the area: Jackson State, Mississippi Valley State, Delta State, and the like. And all of these people had the exact same problem. And they knew how this thing was going to eventually end whenever Deion Sanders came down there. They knew that Deion Sanders was not going to stay down there. They also knew that Deion Sanders was never going to be paid the amount of money from the governorship of Mississippi, like the capital of Alabama was paying Nick Saban, or the capital city and the legislature, because that's what determines the actual person's salary at these state colleges is the actual governor of the state and the ruling party of the actual state itself. You have to understand how these things work from beginning to end. And you have to look at all the interviews because I made sure that I saved every single interview that was made with Deion Sanders and made sure that I replayed them back before I even made these comments myself. Deion Sanders was never a religious person. At no point in his career you see him heavily lean on the God question or God called him to go do actual coaching for football. The dude was a commentator on TV. Okay, made a lot of money being a commentator on TV, which he can go back to easily, especially after his time with Jackson State. But you have to understand that his overall goal was to be at a college to where people would feed into his actual ego and pay him the amount of money that he actually wanted. He wanted the power at being at a school. He experienced this at Jackson State. He really did. He really did experience this at Jackson State. So when I went back home to the Mississippi Delta, I was talking to people who was not much up on how things work. And I would let them know, like, bro, this dude is not staying here. Nobody decides with that level of celebrity to come down to an HCBU in the South and plan on staying there. Because Deion Sanders was a major disruptor in the actual South itself, not just for the school, but for the mind state and the mind frame of people within the area. He needed to show that he could get top talent to come to his school where he's at because of his previous superstardom in order to bolster that to his next move. So when you look at things, you cannot look at somebody's initial move. You have to subsequently look at the moves that they make after the point of where they're actually going. The place in Colorado where I live, that's not a competitive school. It's not a competitive school in a competitive district. But it's easily a school where he can recruit top talent, maybe one or two players, get them to the NFL because of the division that they're in and the people that they're going to play against. And he would get to build his source of power in that specific instance. He was not going to be able to build that in Jackson State. He was never going to build that in Jackson State. And yes, he did know that eventually the state of Mississippi was never going to pay him the money that he was worth. Regardless of how much fame he had, they knew that guy wasn't going to stay either. Because believe it or not, people in this inner circle also work for the state of Mississippi. So they know what this dude's end goal is. After his sons got on the team, yeah, those people are going to go to the NFL and they're going to do great. But after those sons get on, there's really no real reason for him to be there past that. He did use the HCBU system. He did. And I think that's totally okay because people were heavily leveraging his celebrity to change things in Mississippi that a coach of an HCBU was not designed to do. A head coach of the HCBU was never designed to change the conditions of Mississippi. It was never designed to make people choose better mates. It was never designed to make sure those kids grow up into better people. It was never designed for that school to be anything better than the actual athletic program that it is. Education, for the most part, don't bring the dollars to these type of institutions. Media contract and media deals with a successful team bring the actual money to the school itself. While that money does go to the state of Mississippi, it does not go to the players that are on that team. It does not go to the coach who's part of that team itself. So, having said that, Mississippi brought him in for the great pump and dump. He was going to pump up their actual institutions for a while. And then he was going to leave, leaving their actual program in shambles, making a way for the next kind of Super Bowl celebrity to come into Jackson State to pick their program up, to bring it to back to a higher level again, while he moves off to another institution that he's going to make great. I'm not going to lie. When Harbaugh went to Michigan, I have never dreamed of Harbaugh beating Ohio State in Ohio. I never dreamed of that happening. But now that it has happened, and the team that he can actually formulate in the future, it looks like it's going to be happening for a very long time. It seemed like it was a good deal, but it didn't seem like it at the time, even though Harbaugh was paid a bunch of money by Michigan to come there. I think that Coach Prime is doing the same thing in Colorado under slightly different and less circumstances because he can go to a system that's not really competitive. He can recruit top tier talent to his actual school because of his past celebrities and Super Bowls won and all that type of stuff. And he can still place number one in their division and still get people to go to the NFL. He can actually do that with where he's going. But actually, you are correct. But they're not going to give Coach Prime 5 years in Colorado. They're not going to give him 5 years. They're going to give him three at the best. Because actually, Harbaugh does not have very good numbers in the years that he was there. Actually, people was calling for his resignation in like the second year that he was there. They're not calling for it now, but that's what it was. So you guys have got to understand this. No, I'm never going to those games. I never went to those games. I never will. I mean, there's really no reason to go to those games. They get blown out or they barely make it. And you can look at the schedule and see who they're going to win and lose against. So I'm never going to these games. This is what I'm saying. The individual progress yourself has to be made on your own. You cannot outsource these things to celebrities and entertainers to make things great for you. It's great if you're actually in their career field where they're at, but it is bad when you're not in those career fields and you don't understand how you are taken by celebrity and you don't understand how you're being used because of celebrity for somebody else's end goal. This is why I say that you should pull most kids out of extracurricular activities like sports. Because the amount of time that these kids put into these sports the amount of money and revenue that people get out of these sports is not comparable to the amount of sacrifice that these kids put into these sports themselves. There's nothing wrong with wanting your kids to be around a group of men or women and formulate a team. There are other things that you can get those things done with. But you can sacrifice a great majority of this person's growing ability around a sport that he or she may or may not like. And to most people, sports is a very easy avenue to make it toward being a millionaire rather than just picking a tangible career field and surfacing throughout that career field up to its highest point. You have to understand that this stuff is on you. Entertainers and those people are going to feed into the highest amount of attention that they can get for everything that's specific. Most of these people who play sports don't even make it to the big leagues, don't even make it to being a varsity, doesn't even make it to being on the field. But they can suffer lifelong injuries that can leave them horribly disfigured for life. This is why this stuff is in your hands. You have now more information than any group of men that have ever lived on the planet about the specific outcomes. You can now look up the life story of most people who claim to be famous right now. You can look up the business case studies of how companies started right now. There is absolutely no reason to repeat these type of failures to feed into somebody else's end goal. You've got to make sure that your end goal belongs to you, it is for you, and it is not dependent on other people. No, we come out Deion Sanders here, but that's where we're at. People think that they're going to follow celebrity into this chasm of success, but that's rarely the case. That's true. But you have to understand that a lot of people thought things that was going to happen in Mississippi that clearly was not going to happen with Coach Prime going to Mississippi. I've had these conversations with pastors in the area. I've had these conversations with people at the Clarion Ledger, that is the actual um, newspaper in Jackson. I've had these conversations with football coaches all throughout the state. I've had these conversations, and all these people was putting the change that they were unwilling to work for in their own personal life onto a celebrity that's here to leverage as much ignorance as they possibly can, as quickly as they possibly can, for an end goal that they do not understand. I had to let a person know, listen, this person did not come here to stay here. They came here to show what they could do in other places. And that's why they left. Because if they came there under false pretenses, they're going to lose under or leave under the same false pretenses itself. Like I said, go through all of the interviews, every single one of them. I could have told you up front the moment that dude was offered a better deal, he was out of there. He was out of there. And people are like, nah, man, he's too loyal to the area. He this, that, and the other. He's Deion Sanders. He made a whole bunch of money in this year. And you know what? His sons even play at the school. I'm like, maybe getting his sons onto a program to where they can get the national spotlight was the actual end goal of Deion Sanders in the first place. And while getting those eyeballs onto his sons, he can use that same celebrity to boost himself to a better position outside of that actual HCBU. And I told people this up front. That is exactly what he was doing. No, of course they're not leaving with him. Come on, dude. Let's not be ridiculous. The Suns are in a good position. They're on the team. The team is going to be handed off to another coach. That coach is going to make sure that those kids stay on the team. You can't just leave from one program to another. Not all that much. Not in actual college football. And actually still make it to the NFL. That's not how that works. You still have to stay with the same program. I know they offered him a better deal, but I'm saying that he was always looking for a better deal when he came to Jackson State. Jackson State was not his end goal, Mike. Going to a better program that's way bigger than Jackson State was always his end goal. Like Manosphere 2.0. They came here claiming that they gave a damn about black male issues. Turns out they were fully dependent on black male issues to have their actual platform. And once they actually got their actual platform and their actual voice, they really didn't care about progress beyond that. That's the whole point here. You have to look at the play and the things that they're representing after they get on, not the initial reason why they got there in the first place. Yeah, I mean, dude, I already knew Mike that he was never going to stay in Jackson State. I already knew that. I mean, because there's plenty of HCBUs that probably would have paid him that money in blue states, but that wasn't his end goal. His end goal was to end up with his celebrity at a PWI, making a hell of a lot of money, more money than he was at HCBU's. That's the whole point. Of course, he was going to be offered a better deal anywhere else, especially if he was being paid league minimum by anywhere else. Imagine if you are a rookie in a rookie season and you take your team to the playoffs a couple times a year and you still on that rookie contract. Are you obligated to stay at your first school if that actual school does not pay you enough money to move to the next level? So what I'm saying is that he knew Mississippi was never going to pay him that level of money. Yeah, but I'm just saying, look, they didn't offer him a better deal than anyone else because they didn't value him while he was there. That's the whole point. The whole point is that they wasn't going to offer him the type of deal that he was going to get everywhere else once he showed his potential. So it was an equal footing on both sides. He knew that those people were never going to pay him the amount of money that he was worth and deserved, not in the state of Mississippi. And he knew that everyone everywhere else within the country would want a person who can give a spark to their actual program somewhere else. That's the position that you are in as a man. You can always move to a better position. You don't have to go back to the hood for hood hugs. You could just go straight off to the actual other places for better actual opportunities. People already knew the gravitas that that guy was going to bring to the actual program itself. They already knew that. It was everywhere. It was in black media. It was all over social media. It was all over the radio stations, the advertising, the commercials, everything. Everyone knew what that guy was going to bring there. But I'm just saying, look, he was never going to stay there. He was never going to settle for that. And you have to be able to see that as a person. So that way you're not putting your hopes and dreams and everything else within this person to change things in Mississippi that the state legislature did not want to change, that churches did not want to organize for, that people did not politically want to organize for. A lot of people seen a lot of things in Deion Sanders that he clearly had no ability to bring to that area outside of football. That's what I'm saying. A person's end goal is not their first move. A person's end goal is every other move that they make after their first move. And you have to understand this and you have to be able to see it. So that way you're not taken up in the fame of what's going on versus understanding that this person has another end goal that you don't see. Say it again. They was in the business of bringing them there and pumping up their program, and he was in the business of actually boosting his national profile so he can go to a team that was going to pay him the money that he actually wanted to be paid. That's exactly what I'm saying in the end goal. No matter how many kids that have to be sacrificed to be on that team, this is what the end goal is. And you have to be able to think like this as an actual person. You have to be able to see these moves miles beyond it actually being practiced. You think Deion Sanders was not doing commercials when he was a commentator on TV? You think that he wasn't not signing deals when he was on TV? Once you got the money, and once you've had the money, and once you've been in the spotlight like Deion Sanders for this level and period of time, the only thing you care about is the power of a Paterno. The only thing you care about this point in time is the power of Harbaugh at Michigan State. The only thing you want to build is your own source of power to where you're influenced by name alone, by presence alone, can move you to a new stratosphere. And Jackson State was the first part of that plan for him. Those people are not going down to Jackson State. Like no one goes to Jackson State for a very specific reason. Everybody, like most people from my high school who was good at football, actually went to Jackson State. None of them reached the NFL. A lot of them, because of education, was red-shirted and all this kind of stuff most of the years that they were there, because they couldn't keep up academically because of the area they was raised in Mississippi, and that's what it was. You have got to separate yourself from sports and entertainment to be great nowadays. There's too many things that you can be great at nowadays that does not involve the entertainment piece. That guy is leveraging a 20 plus year career field onto people who just got there. They don't see that. These people think they can take on the world. That guy knows that he can take on a specific system. That's where we at. So what you guys have got to understand is that you don't know anybody's end goal unless you consistently pay attention to their actions after they first move. And a lot of people is going to think that, oh well, but guess what, dude? It's too many interviews out there about what he was saying he was going to do at Jackson State when he was there. But see, a lot of people are going to say, you know what? Don't worry about those things. Don't worry about those things. Because at the end of the day, he's just another man getting his. And that's supposed to kind of lessen the blow of what he went there for, what everybody believed in him for, and all of those things. You're going to run into a lot of Coach Primes throughout your life. A lot of them. You're going to run into a lot of these guys who's going to try to move this thing into another stratosphere. People wanted that shortcut of a big name. That's another thing. People wanted a shortcut of a big name. People wanted the shortcut of grifting off of a big name. They thought, oh, well, you know what? Like, you don't think that guy sold his celebrity to those kids who went to that actual institution? You know what? You're going to have a good team. You're going to be here. Look at my Super Bowl rings. You're going to be a great player. All this stuff is going to work out for you. Come to my team. You go to that team. 2 years later, he's gone. Next thing you know, you mortgage half of your life and your future credibility based on a person who's no longer there anymore. Now, how do you look? How do you feel when a new coach come in, a new regime come in, and they don't think of you as a person that should be part of their team? Now look back at the conversation that got you there in the first place. Doesn't seem all that special, does it? When you mortgage your entire credibility and you outsourced it to an actual celebrity rather than thinking about what happened if this person is no longer here and moving on to somewhere else. I talked to coaches at Delta State, Mississippi Valley. They said that dude is not going to be here beyond a couple of years. That dude's end goal is not to be within this area. I talked to this guy. That guy has eyes elsewhere. You know what those people called him? Haters, dummies. You're putting too much thought into this. How come you just can't let a good thing be as it is? That's what was said to these people. Mr. G, thank you for the $20 super chat. Just paying tuition for Brother MOT, long time listener and follower. All right, man. Thanks for coming to Mr. G. Thanks for the $20 super chat. But that's where we at. No matter where you are, people are going to come in for a specific reason that they're going to leverage for their own well-being and good. Even if the situation is great for them. I mean, like, most people thought that he was never going to be there. He was going to be there. He was going to pump the institution up. He was going to get his sons on. And then he was going to leave. One of my high school coaches from football said, this is exactly what this guy's going to do. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I went to Jackson State. I know the program. I know the people there. Everybody thinks the same thing. Now, nobody came out and said it in a wide open. But he said specifically, this is what's going to happen when that guy goes there. And I'm like, bro, there is no way that you're going to be right about this specific thing and haven't even happened yet. He was like, trust me. A couple years later, you're going to come to me and you're going to say that I am 100% right. And I had to this morning call him up. Coach, he was 100% right. What did you see that I didn't? He was like, dude, I've been a part of the system for a while. I went to the school. I coached at many different levels. I've seen these guys come and go. I've seen what they promised to other people. That guy does not look like a guy who's going to go from being on TV to just being in this type of situation, and he doesn't have ulterior motives. Damn, was it that easy to see? It's like, it's that easy to see. When I ask you about military issues, you can give me a straight answer because that's the career field that you're in. And I'm giving you my straight answer based on what I see right here. And then he was like, look, if you was looking at this situation this way, there's no way you wouldn't be able to see this. If you was looking at this situation this way right here, there's no way you would not be able to see it. I'm saying using your own ability to reason and the experience that I have, there is no way that this is not going to end up this way in the future. And I'm like, damn, he does understand the system. Why? He's a part of it. He's always have been a part of it. Mr. Willis, thanks for the $10 cash app. But that's what we are. You need to understand it. You need to build your own power the same way that this guy did. He did it with his own work. He did it with his own work. The years that he spent in baseball, coaching my little brother, the years that he spent going to school there, the years that he spent teaching there, the years that he spent at principals at different other places, the years that he spent in the actual area, and this person gave me a straight answer that was so straightforward that it was even shocking to me to even see how easy it was once he told me how easy it was to see what this dude was on. No, no one leaves TV to be somewhere else in a lesser institution for 4 or 5 years. When Harbaugh went to the team that he went to, he had a very rough start, and then he had the power that he ultimately wanted at the end of the day. Bob, thanks for the $10 super chat. Hey, some Nashville bullshit about black father coming from American Census Bureau. 80.5% of black men have kids by the age of 49. Why they say only 40 to 50% of black men reproduce. Uh, I think they're talking about 40 or 50 of black men reproduce with the women that they're not supposed to reproduce with. That's another problem within itself. I don't pay attention to those statistics because most of black people live in the South. We're talking about $20 to $35,000 a year being the median income for black men within those areas. Yes, you can raise a family within those areas. I'm talking about Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, West Virginia, South Carolina. Those people do have kids in high concentration in those areas. But when you go to other areas like your Memphises, your Nashvilles, your Louisvilles, your St. Louises, your Kansas City, your Denvers, your Salt Lake City, Utahs, then the number becomes way more efficient about how black men compete in those marketplaces outside of the South. That's why I ignore the numbers in the South because they're not realistic. Because they're not really competing against nobody within those areas. And I come from those areas and I know those numbers are pretty wrong. In the city where I'm from, you can own a home off of working at Walmart for 3 years. You can. You can get a house in Mississippi where you can pay $150 to $200 a month for a mortgage when rent is actually $400 or $500 and everywhere else in the city. You can do that. So when you have people who can afford real estate at those prices, how can you compare that to bigger cities that takes a hell of a lot more money to actually live in those areas? It doesn't make any sense to compare the bottom with the bottom when you have to use a strict average across the board. I'm sorry if my son was a ball player. I don't want him to play for Coach Prime. When he was at Alabama, UGA, Ohio, USC, on the table, Dion is all about to take an L. Yes, that's what I'm saying. A lot of people got into that Deion Sanders system that's going to be stranded on death row out there. That's another thing. A lot of people got their kids into sports because they thought that they was going to feed their kids into a Deion Sanders type system at Jackson State. And now what happens when you've wasted the kids' time like that? You already was in good with the actual reporters in the actual Clarion Legend and the actual newspapers in the area. You already had an insight into people actually putting your kid into the actual spotlight. What happens when none of that's there anymore? What happens when none of that's there anymore? The whole coach who kicked this stuff off, he's gone now. That's the great thing about it, actually, is they can transfer to a better school. Now, they can transfer to a better school. They need to transfer now why he's leaving now, why he could put in a good word for them now before they end up screwed. Now, the people who was coming up in those areas who made those deals to go to specific schools so that way they could end up at Jackson State, those people are screwed. Those people are screwed. Yes, they are. But see, you have to understand the actual process of high school to actual college in that area so that way you can understand what I'm actually talking about in the area. Because the churn rate is pretty high. We're talking about 99% of people don't even make it to the leagues, don't even make it to college. Think about every single high school within the area, well, maybe one or two people, unless you're like South Panola or maybe Clarksdale or maybe even Indianola Gentry, one person off the team is going to make it to Jackson State. And they have the whole area to recruit from. Remember, these dudes are groomed at a very young age or where they're going to end up at the end of the day. Damn, 1.6. Ooh, Black Adventure. 1.6. So you can get your son or daughter into a system that's going to have a higher rate of return on investment if they were to go into a specific career field. Or you're going to feed your son or daughter into entertainment that's going to have a 1.6% of success because you have a celebrity coach that's no longer there now. That's a rough business. That is a very rough business. Very rough. Well, you can have a very much guaranteed rate of success if you move on to other things far earlier. But see, this is why you don't create children in those type of circumstances where they're dependent on entertainment in order to move to the next level. There are so many wide open jobs within this country you can get with any career individual very early and can steer your actual son or daughter into guaranteed complete productivity, at least for the next 10 to 15 years. And most of these things don't even require college education at this point. Just the correct program to give you the skills to get you a primary job in the career field. In sports, one injury, you're done. You should see these people going to practice at the Denver practice field. They would get an injury in practice. The type of contraptions that these people had to wear was terrifying for me to look at. This person spent their whole life preparing for a specific position. They got hurt in training camp, and now you never hear anything else from this person again. This person have wasted their whole entire life upon trying to be an entertainer. That's what I'm saying, bro. We need to start concentrating on better returns on investment for our time. But you got to make sure that you start these things off with the right person, so that way you can have the right results. Man, look, dude, I've seen so many people with a knee injury and they're gone out of there immensely, still talented. And then they drop down to, like, like the semi pros and all this kind of stuff, trying to get their life back. Them dudes are out of there. Out of there. That's what I'm saying. You cannot leverage these people's track records and credibility. These people have other end goals that do not include you. That does not include you at all. However, if you think somebody's celebrity is going to put your ass over the top, you're forever going to be chasing things that you don't need to be chasing. I thought it was that high too in Montpellier, but if you're given what Black Avenger said, like, if you're given the amount of people who actually participate in sports every single year, there's another 100 and some recruits that go to these schools. People get red shirted. People get, on and off the off field conditions. They get thrown out of school. Like, if you look at it overall, it's really not that many people that make it this way either. It's really not. Right now, we live in a position and condition to where there are better ways to make money, better ways to connect to the productivity piece, better ways. But there's a lot more other people who want you connected to entertainment that has a very low rate of success, so that way you can always be under their control. And this is the better world that we need to fight for. Seriously. I don't blame Coach Prime for going to a better school. I do blame all of those parents for feeding their children into a meat grinder, hoping that their kids was going to be as successful as a Prime. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. But see, you got to be realistic up front. Like, a lot of these people have pie in the sky ideas that they're going to leverage somebody else's credential for their own personal gain. That's why a lot of these parents get caught up in keeping their kids in the sports well beyond their actual effectiveness date. Even though the kid may or may not want to put his actual 100% effort into that sport, because it's perceptively seen as an easier way or easier model to make it somewhere. How many high round draft picks have you seen be highly regarded, everything else, a person get into an off field condition or situation or an actual injury that's not their fault, and all of a sudden they're discarded by every single person in the world? Whole life down the drain. Everything that they prepared for, gone. Yep, they do that shit. They do it. Yep. You see, they don't talk about those things. Iraq 009 009. No, they don't talk about those things. You still had a good life. You had to see that you were not going to be able to match up with the competition. You made an audible, you made a move, you got a free education, free and clear, no debt, and you still in a six-figure job and still had a good life. It is a huge time waster. It is a huge time consumer too. But see, that's what they want you to do. They still want you to make it an entertainment route, man, and they still want you to mortgage your entire credibility and your life while they risk nothing while watching you do so. Of course, he brought in the Prime. Listen to the actual interviews that Prime had with their kid. That when you listen to him talk, when you listen to the parents of that kid talk, listen to that. Listen to that. I listened to that this morning about that guy thought that Prime was going to lead him to the life of luxury, that was going to lead him all the way to the NFL. That guy had no idea that that dude had ulterior motives of not even being there or watching him be successful after that. After that guy was used for a specific and particular purpose that I'm pretty sure that he sees or their family see now. That's what I'm saying. You got to start holding these people responsible for the things that they say and they do out there. I haven't talked to nobody out there yet, and I know a lot of people out there. I haven't talked to nobody out there yet. What's going on, Jay Sean? But that's what we are. These people are going to sell your ass out in a heartbeat, but you got to be able to see it coming a miles away, though. You got to be able to see it coming miles away. You have to. Because you guys don't know. Dude, I live in the area. I know a lot of people who coach in the area. I know a lot of people who made it to the NFL in that area, all the way from Memphis, all the way down to Pascagoula. Nobody thought that guy was going to be there beyond 3 or 4 years. Nobody. That's why none of those people really tried to pursue him like that, tried to be around him like that, because once they went near him, they seen what he was on. And it's no different when people come to this space. You think you come here for, men's actual awareness and health and everything else, and then you actually see what the actual business model is, and then people the fuck up out of here. That's what they own. That's what they own. But just because that's what they own, that doesn't mean that you cannot not see what the hell's going on here. At the end of the day, we got to pull away from this entertainment piece. We got to pull away from this sports piece because it's a grand waste of time. You can easily get into education. I'm talking about education to a specific type of career field easier than you can higher percentage that you possibly can rather than being on somebody's sports team. That's what I'm saying. But guys have got to realize that there's going to be a lot of bullshit artists that come through and try to legitimize bullshit. They have to. Their lives are dependent on this. This is these people's lives. Those lives are dependent on you not understanding how things work. The moment you understand how things work and how you can easily connect yourself to the military industrial complex and other things that are far more tangible, with a lot less input that has a far guaranteed outcome of result outside of sports and entertainment, we could be able to change this trajectory that we're currently on. We have to be able to change this trajectory that we're currently on. And rather than just saying bullshit like you ain't got no friends, you ain't got no friends if you hang around perspective failure mechanisms that led to this thing in the first place. You don't deserve any friends if you team up with the wrong type of people expecting a level of success. You don't deserve to win, sir, if you connect yourself to the wrong type of woman. You don't deserve to win if you don't work for your own power. You don't deserve to win if other people in this environment who just got here to the country that you've lived in your entire life, that are getting more out of this experience of being in America, coming from a caste system, but you don't understand their caste system and don't understand the fact that you're supposed to outproduce, outperform them, out decision make them at every single corner in your life. If you don't understand that, then you deserve to lose. You deserve to lose. But the problem was is that most failed men wanted the voice of productive men. They wanted to lead men back into their baseline faculties of failure. That's what they wanted to do. So that way they can keep their spot on the field. That's the problem. They want to take inauthenticity to a level that was never meant to be promoted. And then you wanted to be called a man while you was doing so. Crazy. Insanity. Yep. Happens all the time, man. But actually, Johnny Blaze, people will tell you that, you know what? Why don't you just tough it out? Why are you going for disability? Why are you going to get your maximum level of effectiveness that the federal government expected out of you, but you're not supposed to get out of it? Why are you going after your disabled veteran certification so that way you can get government contracts? Why are you doing that? That's not reserved for you. That's reserved for other people. We have got to destroy the ability to think that being an entertainer is a viable option going forward. There's not that many people that are successful at it. There are way more people who can be way more dedicated and way more positions in life than entertainment. I know it's easy. It looks like it's quick. And leveraging the complete ignorance of the entire group for a couple of cheap laughs, man, that seems lucrative, doesn't it? But look at how many people they get left behind because they don't make it. No one focuses on that. No one cares about it. Yep. They also in the military, they discourage you from filling out the paperwork. What the fuck you think that giving you Motrin everything for every issue was about? It was to make sure that they paid for Motrin, and so that way they wouldn't have to pay for disability benefits for people who had legitimate problems. That's what that shit was about. Making sure they didn't have to pay for anything. And yes, the military is a business itself. That's what I'm saying. If I had any problem, took my ass to sick call every time. That's how I got the shit for my ankles, my motherfucking lung, heart condition, all that shit. Hell yeah, y'all gonna pay for it. Hell yeah, y'all gonna make me get all these government contracts because of these conditions. Yeah, you gonna make me. Yeah, I'm gonna take all these checks. I'm gonna take all this money. I'm gonna do all this shit. Goddamn right. You gonna deny me? I'm gonna take this shit to an attorney and I'm gonna get full biddies. That's what the process is. But you got to go through the process. You can't take on this process by yourself. You got to have other people guide you through this shit. That's where we at. A lot of these people don't even want to see you go to better places. They only want to see you be fed into a bad system, a system that most likely did not work out for them. That's what it is, Nagone. Most of these dudes are trying to say stupid shit, trying to gain an audience off of gaming up stupid shit being said, no substance being produced, nobody moving anywhere, anything else. They just want to talk to these basic ass bitches online and produce nothing. That's what I'm saying. Yep, that's what the issue is. Because see, most people don't see the shit coming. They only see their benefit and they get tunnel vision off of their benefit. They don't even care about the system they're being actually fed into. They don't care about the odds. They don't care about none of that stuff. The only thing that they care about is the fact that they're going to benefit someday and they don't give a damn about those people who are not going to benefit at all. Imagine if you got hurt in school. Like you was at the Denver Broncos practicing facility and you got hurt and you wearing all these plates and all this bullshit. Do you really want to hear about a college student going to the School of Mines across town, got a scholarship? Do you really want to hear about a person who got a free ride across town, have to risk nothing, going to university hospital, free ride because of the education and the actual input that their parents put in? Do you really want to hear that shit? As a guy who have a life sustaining injury that you're going to have to deal with the rest of your life, while another person who put no work into actual sports across town got a free ride, don't have to risk anything, don't have any student loans, don't have to worry about their next meal, don't have to worry about any of that stuff? Do you really want to hear that? The answer is no, you don't want to hear that shit. And once you fail a specific way, you want everybody else to fail the same way that you fail, or try to make it the same way you tried to make it. What's wrong, J. Charles? You're never going to get the credit that you deserve from these actual systems until you steer people from it. You're never going to get that type of credit. People 15, 20 years ago, I'm like, hey man, listen, you may need to stay in that city another year, then become a cop in the Air Force. You may need to go take the ASVAB again before you take off and you become a generalized grunt in the Army. You may need to go take that test again and stay out of the system before you become a Marine. People looked at me, they were veterans of those branches. They looked at me like, why would you tell them that? Because nobody told me that. Nobody told me to go and open general in the motherfucking Air Force and become a fucking cop when I clearly smart to do other things. Nobody told me not to do that shit. Yes, he did. Man, bro, everybody has got to look at that documentary. Everyone has to look at that documentary. You know what? I'm gonna look up that documentary, the Sneak 2008, and I need to play that documentary in front of people within this space, so that way you can see what PhDs was about back then. Such a good documentary that he's talking about. Dr. Joanna Kafufu broke down black boys going into sports and the chances of them making it to the pros. That was said within the first, I think, 3 to 5 minutes of that documentary. The first 3 to 5 minutes of that documentary, he broke down the actual chances of people going into the pros. The first 3 to 5 minutes of that documentary, before all of these bullshit PhDs came through here stealing the actual valor of people who were actually PhDs who actually did care about the outcome of black boys back then. Very good documentary. Probably one of the best documentaries I've ever seen on YouTube. With all the with, without the all the insensitive simping and shaming language that was inserted in it. The overall substance of the actual documentary was very good. But there's a lot of people who've stolen the valor of these people who can actually help our actual group. And they've been replaced by a bunch of bitch ass niggas who don't give a fuck about nothing but black male victimhood. And the fact that you're never going to figure out anything. But it's our responsibility to move to a better place. It's our responsibility to move to a better place. Yep. Say it again, bruh. Say it again. Say it again. I got a similar story, but bruh, listen. The expectations of you, sir, was not to take advantage of the entire system. I bet you love that zero down home loan. Bet you love that shit, didn't you? I bet you love that fucking GI Bill, didn't you? You love that vet prep when you actually went into a job for the federal government. Love that shit. You see, people don't even tell you about none of that shit. Bro, you can easily be guided into that than you can be guided through sports and entertainment. Easily be guided through that. Easily. What's going on, TJ? But see, that's what I'm saying. Bro, like most of these people can't guide you into anything else but bad circumstances. That's what I'm saying. Bro, listen. You don't need this entertainment piece, man. Entertainment piece is for failed men. That's what it's for. Failed men who want to talk about things that is not a priority to anybody. Ask yourself this: all this attention being garnered for bullshit. Ask yourself, if your grandfather was still alive, would he respect these people? Would he? Would your grandmother respect these women who want to come online and play like they're so decent? Would they respect that type of shit? With no type of proof that they picked what they picked, given the outcomes that we have? You really think that they would buy such bullshit like that? You got to understand, man, a lot of people is going to be here to leverage failure, leverage collective failure. They're going to continue to keep doing it. They have no other choice. Why do you think that they would lead you to a better life? If they can't lead you to better women, why the fuck would they lead you to a better life overall? Just like Coach Prime, a lot of people are going to buy into a system, and by the time they get to the end of it, the coach that you believed in so much that was going to guide you through this shit is not going to be there. That person has moved on to other things. While your ass is stuck in the middle of this spin cycle, trying to find your way out around a whole bunch of people who don't even know what's going on. What's going on, Ricardo, right there? Again, involvement is free, participation is free, learning about this stuff and how it works is for free. Failure is very expensive. Right now, you have to invest in failure to make it there. You have to invest heavily into not knowing what the hell is going on to fail nowadays. Take it from a dude who chopped cotton. I'm in my 40s. I would never have my son or daughter doing no shit like that if I would have one. Never. You are not going to know what it's like to chop weeds away from around cotton a quarter mile, getting on the truck at 4:30 in the morning, being driven out to fields by 6 o'clock in the morning, and you got to be done with that quarter mile that you chopped by 10 o'clock in the morning, or it's gonna be too hot out there for you to do anything. There ain't no way in the hell I would even invest any amount of time into explaining that shit to no child or no woman. Sometimes these people just ain't got it. It is your responsibility to go how far and wide as you possibly can to make sure that you find something else to deal with that doesn't give you this specific type of results. That's your responsibility. Remember, they changed the trajectory of the family. You need to change the trajectory back. These people do not want things to work. They want things to fail. So that way they can feel a hell of a lot more comfortable about themselves, about where they currently are. Say it again. I actually think the best Steve Jobs movie was the one with Michael Fassbender in it. While a lot of people did not like that movie, that was the most realistic portrayal of Steve Jobs that I've ever seen in any medium. The one with Michael Fassbender. I forgot the name of the movie. But yeah, that was the most realistic portrayal of that guy, Steve Jobs. Most realistic portrayal. The movie didn't get good reviews because it was too realistic. You know, most entertainment is supposed to appeal to a lesser minded people, but that movie was too high level when it came to that movie was too high level when it came to sacrifice. It was way too level, too high level when it came to that. Way too high level. But a lot of these people want you to get you to shortcut the process itself, so that way they can have power over you. Because most of these people know the answer more than they know the answer to failure. They know the answer to success. You think that most of these people who raise these kids in these horrific conditions don't know the type of men that they would actually want to be around? They're trying to create failure to make themselves feel more comfortable. This is why there is a concerted effort by most failed men into focusing on things that we don't need to be focused on. Dude, I have a whole library. It's not just a book. I mean, It's a whole library. I mean, no, you're part of the Patreon. But Hyperfocus is a book that I would actually focus on first. Hyperfocus. Hold on a second. Let me look at my Audible so that way I can get the actual author's name. Hold on a second. You know what? When Erica Williams was talking about Hyperfocus, I think it was last week. I'm like, man, that's such a good book. Oh, that's such a good book. It's by Chris Bailey on Audible. Hyperfocus. The book is red in color. Hyperfocus is such a good book. Such a good book. Tells you about how to push all these things out and focus on one specific issue and goal and task and follow it all the way to its conclusion. Excellent book. It was supposed to be my January book of the month, but yeah, Hyperfocus is a very good book. Despite how simple the book sounds, everything in that actual book can help you out from beginning to end. It's a very good book from beginning to end. And you may find yourself listening to that book or even different chapters of that book multiple times because I have to listen to it at least 3 or 4 times a year overall. But there's certain chapters in specific, depending on the life circumstances that you go through, that are also very important. So I want to thank you guys for coming through. And you have to understand that Coach Prime did use HCBU'S to get to his end goal. His end goal was to build his own power source outside of media, outside of entertainment, putting 80 or more hours a week into an actual program that he was not really expected to compete at all that much for a specific level of success, especially in that division. This is what his end goal was. There's nothing wrong with his end goal. There's a lot wrong with people feeding themselves into his end goal, but that's his end goal. You can have a better end goal than that guy. So I want to thank you guys for listening. I'm the man tomorrow. You guys have a really nice rest of your weekend. Peace.